Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always, my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Liverpool 3, Aston Villa 0. I feel like I was probably too optimistic in my preview. Dust has settled a little bit. We've had some time to think about it. Still the same day. How are you feeling, mate?
I too was optimistic going into the game, mate, so don't worry about that. Apologies for missing the preview. To yourself and the listeners. As you can see from the bunting around me, I'm a year older than I was.
You got a load of happy birthdays in the comments, mate. The comments
were lovely. I saw a few of them. It was lovely. So thank you for, I'm going to go through those actually. I know replies to everybody that did. Well reminded, mate. But yes, it was, not only did I turn a year older, but I bloody feel a year older after that 90-minute showing earlier, mate. I was very optimistic, and you know what? After the Newcastle performance, I was pretty I wasn't as down in the dumps, and I wasn't as negative as felt other fans were. And that's not as, to say anybody shouldn't have felt the way that they did or anything like that. I was just a bit kind of, well, it's first day of the season, Ty was missing, yada yada yada. I have more concerns after this performance than I did after the Newcastle game. And yeah, it's not often. I don't like coming on this podcast and being negative and throwing cold water on things. And this is I was sat here as I was loading up the call, mate, and I was like, I just feel that I can't. I just don't have too much positive stuff to say on this one, mate. And it's unfortunate. I don't like being that way, but it really wasn't that day.
No, that's the thing. And sometimes it is going to be like that. And I don't think, if I'm being honest, it is as doom and gloom as the internet would probably like to make out that it was. We were poor and Liverpool weren't as poor as us. I think that's probably the top and bottom of it. And I think people who are probably going to come onto the podcast and hope to maybe hear us, say how we were amazing value. I don't think we were. Honestly, I think the game played out and in the way that, it deserved to, and Liverpool ended up getting a result. The only contentious thing really for me is that first goal, that Szoboszlai goal, who was someone who, pointed out in the preview, it's frustrating. And what actually, does make that goal more frustrating is anybody who would have watched Match of the Day and saw the Manchester City second goal, Nathan Ake scored yesterday. Was it Akanji? No, Ake scored, Akanji tried to intervene. It was one, it was, he's quite clearly offside. He's quite clearly trying to interfere with play. He's blocking Bert Leno's vision as well. Clearly tries to play the ball. And, we've got a similar scenario here whereby Salah is completely blocking Emi's line of sight, interfering with the play in the sense that Emi can't see. Not that he went for the ball or whatever, because Szoboszlai's shot was, it was destined to hit the inside of the side net in there and go in. It was a great strike, but can't help but feel like Emi would have maybe had it covered a little bit better if obviously his vision wasn't impeded by Mo Salah. It's so frustrating, and what's annoying about that in particular, mate, is that if that was Ollie Watkins standing in front of Alisson Becker and it's a Moussa Diaby shot that rifles the net, you just know it gets disallowed straight away.
Yeah, I really did feel for Fulham fans yesterday, and it's one where, look, it isn't about the goalkeeper and whether or not he should have saved it ultimately, is it? As you rightly point out, mate, it's whether the goalie or would have saved it or may have missed it or whatever might have happened had that player not been there. It's totally subjective. The rule is, if he's blocking the goalkeeper's line of sight, regardless of whether it trundles past his right boot, having just seen it late, or whether it, the Szoboszlai goal, rifles into the side netting, that is by the by, and it's about whether he's kind of interfering with play and everything like that. And it'd be disingenuous for me to sit here and say that I felt that changed the whole trajectory of the game, and that because we conceded so early on that, I think we would have lost this game regardless. I think, the performance just wasn't good enough today. But yeah, it is an interesting. I really do feel for I almost feel for the officials at this point, because I just feel that there's so much confusion. Like, there's so many decisions being made that like are contentious, and I'm kind of looking at them like, I'd be honest, I don't even know what the rule really is in this situation. And then you've kind of got this whole added time thing being added on. It's just the officiating, despite them like apparently seeming to have a real look at that over the summer. That's been something that we've really heard, is that there've been rule changes and that Howard Webb was installed at PG Mole, and since then it's just gotten more confusing. And if anything, like week after week, almost game after game, you're seeing a decision which just baffles. And we had one today, and I think it's certainly definitely a talking point. I think this will be brushed under the carpet because of the nature of the result and the performance. You know, no one's going to sit here and, you know, if that was the goal that decided it, it's definitely, there needs to be some dialogue around that. But yeah, I mean, as I said, given today's performance, it wasn't anything which required too much action, to be honest with you.
No, it's frustrating as well. You know, even the Garnacho goal that's disallowed in the late kickoff today, he's not offside. That's not. They've drawn the lines on the wrong clip. He's not offside. So you're right. It's happening every game. We shouldn't be coming on here and, you know, the people shouldn't be going on the podcast or going to the pub and chatting to the mates about whatever contentious decision as frequently as it's happening. It's a bit of a piss take, if we're being completely honest. But back to our game specifically, mate. Caught off guard by this one. There was a few comments, and someone tweeted me about I completely neglected to mention Matty Cash in the preview. That is a genuine mistake. Giddy at the thought of potentially seeing a Zaniolo start. I mean, starting Matty Cash didn't necessarily prove to be the correct decision either, so I can only apologise for the omission. And obviously there is a position change there, and the own goal is unfortunate. It's not his fault. Shit happens. But I think the one thing that I got it right, but I also got it wrong at the same time, was Liverpool's midfield. I thought Endo would start, and I thought that would give us a bit more of a foothold in this game. Just somebody who's getting used to the league, getting acclimatized. I didn't expect Liverpool to start with Szoboszlai, McAllister, and Curtis Jones. I think that is probably something that we didn't necessarily expect either. And I just think, as brilliant as Kashi was, and this isn't like a hindsight 2020 thing. Cash can be used in all these different positions in these different ways and in different systems. And he was a winger coming through Nottingham Forest, and he's capable of doing that. But against Liverpool, where they're just more free flowing, genuinely technically better footballers as well than the likes of Burnley, playing him in a midfield position when I think it's fair to say defensively, in any case, Matty Cash has very little positional awareness himself. Starting him in a midfield that, as you know, we were saying on WhatsApp, mate, just consisted purely of vibes. He's really going to struggle there. He is like that. That's not necessarily the best idea. And I know obviously it worked against Burnley, and you know, we spoke about the sort of tactical flexibility of Unai and having different systems and deploying different players in different situations. And listen, having Cash and Konsa ideally before the game, when you're thinking about maybe having to double up on Diaz and Robertson, that makes sense. But, and again, he didn't play necessarily the whole game in midfield either, obviously because of the tactical change that didn't really last all that long. But I can't help but feel that we got that wrong in the early stages of the game because we just didn't get a grip of that midfield. And Kashi isn't the guy to do that. But when you don't have a lot of possession, you need to cover a lot of ground. You've got players running off your shoulder here, there, and everywhere. It just wasn't the right game for him to be deployed there. And that isn't a criticism of him more so than Unai getting it wrong, really. It's probably what I'm getting at.
No, you're absolutely right, mate. It's funny that I just thought the game plan as a whole was off. I've never really come away from many games since he came into the helm and felt that Unai got it wrong. And I think today he did. I think subbing Bailey on and off is a reflection of that. I mean, that's like an admittance that, you know, that's twice that's happened to Leon Bailey now, that he's been subbed off and then subbed off later on in the game. And it just felt that last season we went to Anfield with such a concrete plan. and such a concrete game plan, particularly to combat Trent and what he was able to do. And we kind of, that whole inverting thing, and we really nullified that really well. And we stopped a Liverpool winning run, as we aim to do today. They'd won 8 games in a row prior to us landing at Anfield last season. But just today, like, it just felt like, you're right, that midfield just completely ran over us. Trent was pinging balls around like it's nobody's business. And like, you kind of listen to some of the stats that he put up today. Obviously, he gets the assist and he's kind of getting all the plaudits, and rightly so. He was great, but we facilitated that. You know, you look at, we allowed 8 long passes, 2 crosses, 5 chances created, 1 assist, 91% passing accuracy. He just had an absolute field day in the middle of the park. And I just felt that, yeah, I'm not going to kind of go too deep on it, but I just felt that whatever the kind of plan was for that game, it was just way, way, way off. I mean, just numerically, like, you know, you're going to have a hard time away from home against a 3-man midfielder, and we only kind of have 2 out-and-out kind of sitting midfielders. It's always going to be difficult. And unless you kind of go with a concrete plan of how you're going to nullify, I mean, the stats will tell you one of the best creative players that have ever set foot in the Premier League. You're just going to have so much trouble. And then you've kind of got all those runners that you mentioned off him, like your McAllisters, Szoboszlai, who can, like, one of the best ball strikers in world football. And you add that, you know, that's just going on behind the forward line of Salah and Nunez and all those guys. It's just so difficult. And I just never really felt that Villa really looks like they had a clear plan of what to do out there. Whether that's a case of the players not executing it properly, I mean, regardless of the game plan, I thought we just looked sloppy in midfield. The passes were going astray, and although Liverpool were a lot better, we are lucky that we faced this iteration of Liverpool. Because if we played the Liverpool of 2 or 3 seasons ago today, it would have been far, far worse. We were just giving the ball away left, right, and centre, allowing Anfield to get on our backs, and there were so many chances that went begging because, you know, it's Darwin Nunez arriving at the far post rather than Sadio Mane or Bobby Firmino, that kind of sped our blushes in many ways, and that's us coming out of it with a 3-0 defeat. So, yeah, just the game plan as a whole, I just never really got a grip of, or got a sense of exactly what we were trying to do in the game.
Do you not think, though, mate, that away performance last season, 2 players that were key to that are Ramsey and Moreno, and obviously we lose Moreno during that game with due to injury, and he's still not returned because of that injury. The left-hand side for me, you know, the right-hand side against Burnley worked a treat with Cash, Konsa. That sort of combination of either Cash and Konsa or Cash and Bailey, depending on who the opponent is probably better than I think we gave it credit for. Like, coming into the season, we definitely said that the right-hand side was our weaker side. But, I mean, John McGinn shouldn't really be playing on the left. Obviously, he created a very good chance against Burnley in the build-up to Diaby's goal on the left. But we've seen him play his better football on the right. And Dean has been... This isn't a criticism of Dean at all, because he's been our most consistent player this season so far. I know it's not been that long, but Dean has been brilliant. But the left-hand side currently is arguably the weakest part of our team. Jacob Ramsey is a massive miss. And it's games like this where I think, because, you know, we're talking about like, oh my God, Tielemans can't even get a game, squad depth, blah, blah, blah. When Jacob Ramsey's back, mate, it's either Leon Bailey or John McGinn that's not getting in this team. And I mean, I think people would rather probably lose Leon than John, if we're being completely honest. But it's, you know, it's an option that we are dearly missing. And listen, I don't think as well, like, on another day, mate, Villa get at least a goal at Anfield with some of the chances that we created. Musa looked lively. It wasn't necessarily Ollie Watkins' best game. Not going to sit here and give him a hard time because, I mean, Twitter's already done that for him. Not that he's listening to this podcast for any, words of encouragement, but I thought, you know, there was a couple of instances where Diaby was putting balls in the box, and on another day when the players are probably feeling a bit more confident, something maybe happens. I just don't think we ended up committing enough numbers forward either when we were on the few attacks that we made, just because we were sort of shell-shocked by what happened, conceding so early on. and almost capitulating in the manner that we did. But you're right, on another day, mate, this is 5, 6, 7 for Liverpool. On a good day for Liverpool, like there was that one chance that it's just, I could not believe Darwin missed at the back post. The goal was gaping, and you're right, we're lucky that it was Darwin. But again, that's not to say that there weren't chances for Villa in this game. There was. I mentioned in the preview, mate, that we wouldn't have a lot of the ball, and that's probably the best way to do it. But I thought we'd be more combative, and we weren't. We were very passive in this game. It wasn't a great game for the centre halves either, mate. Obviously, was it? Diego comes off injured. It feels like another sort of welcome to the league moment for Pau Torres as well. Look, I know, and we've discussed this so many times, mate. We have to take the rough with the smooth with Pau, but there has to be a point where he either puts on a bit of weight, starts to get more physical, because he can be 5 kilos heavier and still play that same pass, mate. Do you know what I mean? There has to be some middle ground, I think, with Pau, and I think it's been more difficult for him making this adjustment than Diego, because there's about 20 kilos difference between the two of them. But yeah, I don't necessarily think it would be the end of the world if Pau ate a bit more protein and hit the gym. And I mean, because we was talking, was it Burnley, the goal we conceded at Burnley, like that was unforgivable from Pau. But like you have to stand your ground there, and I know obviously strength, aerial ability, all that kind of stuff isn't necessarily where he excels, but at 6'3", you don't really have any choice. You can't be beaten in the air by Lyle Taylor.
Well, this is what I'm saying, mate. Like, this is the player that we've signed. Yeah. And like his profile is his profile, and it's always been his profile, and his profile is what got him to the top. And so, but yeah, like he's physically like the. It's just difficult to know what to really say on that one, because he's going to be so suited to the games in Europe. But yeah, like there are going to be games in the Premier League where he does struggle. But I feel that, to be honest with you, today, like I kind of spoke after the Newcastle game about the kind of psychological makeup of this team, and without Tyrone, look, I'm not sat here saying if Ty plays today we don't lose, but I'm just saying that I just don't know who to hang your hat on with this. Like when we go to Anfield and we concede inside the first 5 minutes, I just don't see the player like, it's okay, he will drag us out of this. He's going to be that guy. And obviously, like Guinea can be that character and everything like that. But I just think like when you've got guys like Pau, who yes aren't that kind of physical aggressor, like that's the one thing that I worry about in this Villa team, and that would be my only like way to add some caution to our kind of European adventure and everything like that, is because if you think that stepping into Legia Warsaw away is going to be like atmosphere-wise, like anything like what we see week to week in the Premier League, we've all got another thing coming, and like it's in those kind of atmospheres. And you look at like West Ham and their trip last season, you look at the Roma team that won the Conference League the year before, and I know we're talking Premier League here, so I've gone on a bit of a tangent, but there's just like West Ham, there's a genuine psychological, and we've seen that when they've come to Villa Park at times, is that they are just like brutes. Half of the 11 is just like genuine brutes, and they will be aggressive, and they will run the channels, and they will play so like at the time like Soucek and Rice and dominate you physically in midfield. That's the only thing that I worry about in this Villa team, is just that there isn't that. And we were kind of talking in January about signing Guendouzi, and how that kind of tenacity and that like aggressive streak that we felt like we needed at the time, that's the only thing that I just think this Villa team is missing. And I think it's why you'll go into these difficult atmospheres like St James's and like Anfield, and when the grain starts to go against you and you go a couple of goals down, like who's the one that drags us out of it? And it has to be the manager, it has to be Unai. And I thought we were better in the second half. I thought we definitely played a better game than in the first half, but that's the only thing that I do worry a little bit about this Villa team, is just that I don't know who to kind of hang your hat on in those kind of situations without Tyrone.
Yeah, but and the thing is as well with Diego going off as early as he did, that's going to unsettle the team as well. And I feel like Diego is a leader. You can't really look at your centre half or your goalkeeper. Emmy's obviously a leader; he's vocal, but you can't really look at your centre halves and your goalkeepers as the ones who are going to pick you up out of a rut. That's a midfielder's job, really, isn't it? If we're being completely honest, and that responsibility probably should fall on McGinn. Has at times, but yeah, you're right. It's a difficult one. Obviously, Guendouzi's joined Lazio before deadline day, and yeah, it's just I don't know. I do kind of just feel like as well, people aren't going to want to hear it. I tweeted about it earlier, mate, but it's just one of them. Like you lose games. Yeah, you're going to win games. You're going to lose games. We're going to win a lot more games at home than we are on the road, especially against a side like Liverpool, and especially if we are going to be as passive and sort of non-confrontal as we were in this game. And the only blessing is, mate, is that we've got 2 weeks till the next game. And I mean, is it after that? It's then Warsaw away, isn't it? It's Leisure away.
Yeah, I'd say you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I still believe, and we've kind of said it for a long time, the reality is if you beat the teams below you and occasionally pick up a result against the teams above you in the Premier League, you will have a good season. You will have a good season. If we go and lose to Liverpool and lose to City and everything like that this season, it's fine. To kind of put a positive spin on things, you're right. In both of the games that we've kind of had this season where we've lost by big margins, in both of those games, we've suffered a really significant injury in the back line. And today it caused 3 different players to be pulled either onto the pitch or out of position. We had to bring Konza across and Bailey in, and then Cash into right back and then Bailey in. So the whole makeup of the team had to change, and sort of similar situation in the first game of the season. And yeah, that's really significant. I think that that's the kind of caveat to it all. It does. I still think that off the bench that we are going to left to be a little bit wanting, and kind of John Duran. I still think when he came on, there's still that kind of emotional immaturity to his game. Those 2 chances where he enters the box in good places and just kind of lashes them into the side netting. And it is going to be a little bit, I don't want to say painful, but you're watching what Cam Archer did yesterday for Sheffield United, and it's I
wondered how long it would take.
It's hard, bro. It is hard. And that, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say on that. I don't know what happens at Bodymore or anything like that. But for me, I know who looks more kind of mature and ready, mentally, to play in the Premier League. And I think it's Cam. I think our bench is wanting a little bit, but we have all of these injuries, as you say. Ramsey's got to come back. McGinn's got to come back. Sorry, Moreno's got to come back. You've got guys like Ty out. Hopefully, Carlos's injury isn't too bad. It's interesting that, not that I thought Longley should have come on, but obviously he's an option that we've kind of got standing there as well. So, if we can go into the international break with a win against Palace, then yeah, we kind of come back. It's only, I think, 5 days later or something like that. Is the Leisure game. It's a pretty quick turnaround, even so. But we all know how quickly things can change. And if we go and beat Palace by a comfortable scoreline, and let's hope that we do, then everything looks a little different.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. It's just, we're not going to look back at the end of the season and go, we can't believe we, didn't get a point at Anfield away. That's just not the reality of these kind of games. We will punch up against opponents like this, more than likely at home, but there will be the odd away performance, like we saw last season, Chelsea, Spurs, where you pick up 3 points apiece. That will happen, but then there will be games like this. And I think we've seen every time we've kind of had that heavy defeat from Emery. I know there was that run of 3 games where we conceded 12 goals last season. After that, we then didn't lose for 8 or 10. And then, get thumped by Newcastle. We look pretty convincing, albeit against weaker opponents, in the following 3 games. And now we're here. This is where we're at. We're back. We've taken 2 steps forward and 1 back. And as long as, over the next few games, we are taking steps forward, then that's all we can ask for.
Agreed.
So, yeah, I don't think it's what most people will want to hear, but that's just how I'm feeling. So I'm sorry about that, guys. Shout out to FPL, because all the games are finished. I believe it's actually my boy Jake Flower on top of the Villa League. It is.
Nice.
I can't believe it. Anyone? Do you know what? I hate people who've got Haaland and Alvarez. I just think that's dead greedy. So, and Jake has Haaland and Alvarez. I'm kind of. I feel like I've had a good week, but I'm annoyed because I've got 17 points on the bench in Cam and Turner, who were both guys that I had in my team until 5 minutes before the deadline. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to back Ollie and I'm going to back Anana. And I look very silly for that now.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, looking at the guy in second, Mark Langford, if you're listening, who got 100, he's like 101 points this game week. So I think even he might usurp top spot, mate. Front line, Archer on 12 points, Ferguson on 17, and then Captain Haaland on 40. So what is that out of your front line? 57, 69 points out of your front line alone. And then he's got Ake 8 points, Salah 8 points, and Bumo 8 points. Just a monster game week. That is seriously impressive. The league continues to grow as well, up to 76 people in the league, which is absolutely awesome. We'll keep regular tabs on how this is going. There will be the usual shirt giveaway at the end of the season as well. So continue to get people involved as well. There's no prizes for the cup, unfortunately. We did have people message us, unfortunately. We'd just be doing the league this season. But maybe that's something we could look into in the seasons to come. But yeah, 101 points, 69 points out your front line. To be fair, Cam at 4.5 million is looking like that could be an asset.
It's good value. It's good value. I had him in from the start because I thought, there's part of me that thought he'd actually get some games, but obviously with how it developed, yeah. But I mean, it's good for him. He'll get goals. I was kind of hoping that Balogun would go to Fulham or somewhere because I thought that'd be a good 4.5 million option.
Yeah.
That weren't the case. But yeah, make sure you guys, if you're into fantasy football, get involved. The link to that will be in our link tree, which is in the description of the podcast. So yeah, wherever you're listening, whether it's Apple and Spotify, make sure you're following, leave a review, leave a 5-star rating. Dan and I'd really appreciate that. If you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, because it's currently, I checked the numbers the other day, 54% of you guys who are watching this aren't subscribed. So make sure you do. And then if you hit the bell button, you'll never miss a video from Dan or I here at Heart of the Holt. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.